Imagine you're just chilling, and out of nowhere, in the middle of some forgotten land by any god or demon, two little sprouts pop up from the ground. Nothing much, right? But then the camera shakes, the wind completely stops, and a deep rumble echoes like a colossal monster is approaching. From the sky, down comes a giant foot, not a joke. A huge foot with mutant bird claws that stomps down, nearly squashing those little sprouts. Someone shouts, "Who planted this in my backyard?" And just then, out of the dust, appears this weird creature that's part snake, part chicken, looking all strange. It stares at the sprouts like it's asking, "Can I eat that?" But then, the sprout reacts. It trembles, it glows, and suddenly turns into a possessed radish, decked out in red gold and the soul of an MMA fighter. The snake freaks out, the tension rises, and the brawl is about to begin, but instead of epic, it's hysterical. Wrong moves, punches that hit the wrong buddy, and it looks more like a schoolyard fight. And to make it worse, the snake starts crying literally. Cut to the next scene. Now there's fried rice, massages, a monster, and a big boss super proud of his demonic cooking. Peace, right? Wrong. A red rift tears through the sky. Monsters come pouring down like it's the apocalypse sale, and the only thing that can save this crazy world is the genetically engineered Chimera hunters, strong, fast, and just as crazy as the enemies. But hey, this story is just getting started, and if you think it's weird so far, just wait for what's coming next. A really creepy corner of the demon world. A weird portal opens up to reveal a giant, empty plain, where only two little sprouts show up, unaware that things are about to get intense. Suddenly, in this blockbuster moment, a giant foot, looking like it belongs to a bird, stomps down right next to the little plants, shaking the ground like an earthquake. Out from that giant foot comes a super bizarre creature with a yellow body that looks more like a snake. It looks up, all curious, as if it's thinking, "What are these plants?" Before long, the creature notices the little sprouts shining on the ground. Meanwhile, one of the sprouts starts to tremble, almost as if it's accepting that this menacing thing is coming. In a burst of energy, the sprout shoots up from the ground and turns into a massive radish monster with glowing red eyes like traffic lights. The beast, which looked like a snake, jumped back in surprise, startled by this sudden transformation that wasn't in the plan. Now the two monsters are face to face in that barren landscape, ready to face their fate, looking serious and not here to mess around. The two figures stared at each other with gleaming eyes, creating a tense, silent atmosphere that could slice through the air. The yellow creature lunges forward with its mouth open, ready to bite, while the radish monster braces for action. Cut to a playful scuffle between the two, wondering who's going to win this fight. Two powerful figures are watching the brawl, one confident the outcome is obvious, while the other notes that the fight is heating up and things aren't looking easy. A group of radish monsters gears up for a team attack, throwing a punch that makes some serious noise. As the punch lands, the snake creature deftly dodges the attack, leaving the onlookers with a look of, "Wait, what?" The punch misses and accidentally hits another radish monster. The yellow creature's eyes well up with tears. Defeated and heartbroken, the snake slinks off to cry. The mandrake, now all happy, looks like a true icon, while a spectator comments that their opponent fights well. A young guy approaches the champ with a big grin, and the little monster gets excited, urging the guy to hurry up. As he's getting ready to crack open the macata, he digs his fingers into the jar, grabbing a handful of white gel that looks like some kind of magic goo. Sitting at a wooden table outside, he gently rubs the cream on the little monster's body. He lifts the creature up, happy as can be, watching as the little guy totally enjoys the moisturizer. A young girl pops up with an owl on her head, interrupting the vibe and asking Uncle Rabbit if the food is going to be ready. The man, with his cooking skills, promises she'll love the dish. The girl shows up with a basket full of eggs, insisting it would be a shame not to use them in the meal. Agreeing, the chef breaks an egg in a dramatic fashion. As she watches in awe, the girl sees the master chef skillfully slide the food around in the blazing pan, her uncle exclaiming about his amazing skills. He lifts the finished dish, and the girl eagerly asks to dig in. He explains that the final touch is a sprinkle of sesame seeds, adding it with style. Finally, with the meal ready, the girl calls everyone to eat like a true hostess. The young man holding the little monster decides to join the feast. Nong Gunsuk, the chef, proudly announces his special dish infused with manna, catching the attention of his two guests. He reveals his main course, a spectacular fried rice. The group sits around a massive wooden table, ready to devour the chef's masterpiece. The young man takes the first bite. Her eyes go wide with shock and extreme delight as the food touches her tongue. She excitedly screams that the food is incredibly delicious, while the chef, beaming with pride, encourages her to keep eating. The woman in the skull mask praises the mouth-watering dish, making the chef a bit flustered as he responds that it's an honor to please. The young man then decides to try the fried rice with tea. As he samples it, his expression changes. His eyes narrow in mild surprise, as if he's tasted food from the gods. He looks at his arm and sees that the little radish monster has already drifted off into a peaceful sleep. Meanwhile, the man with the eagle head enjoys his meal while the girl attempts to feed her tiny owl. The woman with the skull mask asks for another serving, and the chef excitedly runs off to get more, like a kid on Christmas morning. A subtle smile appears on the young man's lips as he savors the food. He leans back, closing his eyes for a moment, feeling a sense of inner peace that makes even the demon realm feel calm. As the sun sets, he glances at his companions, thinking that life here isn't so bad, you know. But in a flash, that peace goes out the window when a bright red rift tears through the sky. Dramatically, from this portal, a wave of destruction rushes down as swarms of insect monsters appear, ready to wreak havoc. These cruel future monsters from what would be called a demonic realm destroy cities like they're just toys. In response to this crisis, some special individuals awakened powers and became known as hunters, the last hope. These beings who unlock their ninth sense gain special and powerful abilities, becoming the top dogs of the scene. Thanks to these newly awakened heroes, humanity finally had a chance to strike back. The cities slowly started to be rebuilt, even though life was still chaotic. People could finally enjoy a bit of normalcy, but the fight was far from over, as a lone hunter found himself cornered by a pack of fierce monsters. As the walls closed in, he let out a powerful shout, unleashing an energy blast from his shield that pushed the monsters back. But it wasn't enough, as a monstrous beast was closing in on him without mercy. This posed a major problem. The number of hunters awakening naturally was incredibly low, only 1 in 6 among the ruined population. A new solution needed to be created to face the endless threat: the salvation, artificial life. These new beings, the Chimera hunters, were thrown into the battlefield to take down the hordes of monsters. The creation process was intense, involving controversial materials like the corpses of the condemned and abused pets. Other components included special minerals extracted from the gates of the monsters, just like some evil Pokemon Day. The final ingredient to bring these artificial soldiers to life were the cells from powerful monsters. The secret recipe, after a lot of trial and error and plenty of bloodshed, finally made humanity's survival efforts pay off. This breakthrough made it possible to mass-produce Chimera hunters, forming a new army. With this blend of science and hunters, casualties dropped and countless lives were saved. With this new force, society began the long and challenging process of rebuilding. Later that evening, in a fancy Chimera research lab, a worker prepared to clock out. After one last check, he and a colleague stepped into a storage area. He notices that the arm of Chimera number 17 looks rotten. Like, what the hell is this? My partner warns him not to get too close, but the guy thinks it's all good since the Chimera's brain is messed up. The creature's right arm is totally mutated, making the scientist wonder if this is some dangerous side effect. He asks his nervous colleague why he's so scared of a dude who seems incapable of seeing. The shy guy suggests he just passed the inspection since the messed up Chimera is going to get discarded soon anyway, and he just wants to get to quitting time. The two researchers back off, leaving the broken Chimera all alone in its dark, bloody cell, like a rotten papaya tossed in the corner. Inside the lab director's office, he's informed that number 17 has become completely useless. The subordinates report that the Chimera's body is so damaged that any other would have been thrown out by now. They mention that the creature only has about a month left, or at least that's the prognosis the other researcher discreetly agrees with. Looking sympathetic, the director decides to send the amorphous Chimera on a portal-blocking mission, just to cover for the hunters. He gives a grim order to his team. It has to be a return command, leaving the Chimera to fend for itself. For real, wake up to the scene in the demon realm, where the lonely Chimera finds itself in a rocky, desolate place full of trouble. Suddenly, a massive winged monster descends from the sky with its jaws wide open, like something out of a horror movie. Akame digs her claws into the ground, getting ready to launch a daring counterattack against the aerial strike. She unleashes a powerful web of energy, catching the beast and interrupting its attack high up, like a furious spider. While dealing with the first threat, the ground starts quaking violently, signaling that danger isn't over yet. A colossal monster, looking more like a horrific worm, bursts from the earth, roaring as it rises above the lonely terrain. The Chimera stands firm between the two beasts, its eyes scanning the dual threats ahead. The giant worm fires a beam of light that lifts the Chimera into the air in defense, but even caught, the creature retaliates, slashing the massive beast below with all its might. The monster retaliates, gathering a blue sphere of energy. Crackling in his jaw, looking like he's about to blow, he unleashes energy in a powerful bolt, aimed straight at the winged beast still trapped in the web. The explosion hits its mark dead on, engulfing the creature in a blinding burst of electricity, like a battery show. The other monsters scream in pain as the fierce electric attack zaps through them, turning it into a monster buffet. Watching from a safe spot, a group of hunters is impressed by the power of the S-Class Chimera. One of them comments that it's already the third day, and there's still no sign of the gate closing, and the tension is sky-high. His buddy, full of confidence, tells the main guy not to worry, thinking the S-Class Chimera can hold its own indefinitely. The group's swordsman grips his weapon tightly, knowing that his only mission now is this one. With a quick move, he takes out a monster that managed to slip through, saying that now it's just about handling the stragglers. Suddenly, the Red Gate's vortex starts swirling and disappears, like it's throwing in the towel. A signal confirms that the gate has finally vanished, and the crew begins to prepare to bail. The leader orders everyone to back off and get out of this demon realm quickly. Who knows if something even nastier shows up. But just as they start running, the other hunter throws a punch at a new monster that pops up out of nowhere, blocking their path. One of the guys asks if they're really leaving the Chimera behind, but the leader says not to worry. He explains that the creature's lifespan is up, so it's better to let it face the final battle on its own. While they're running, the woman feels bad about what they're doing, but her partner brushes it off, complaining that the Chimera is just an inorganic tool. But trust me, the abandoned creature is so much more than just a tool. It's a being that follows its master's orders with a loyalty that you can almost feel. It keeps fighting with all its might, tearing another monster apart with its powerful claws. Why? Because mere obstacles and prisoners need to be eliminated. The last order it receives shines in its mind like a beacon. Its only purpose is to ensure the hunters can escape. Another grotesque monster, grinning wickedly, approaches, ready to take its shot. The lone warrior recharges his last reserves of energy, preparing for a massive electric discharge. He unleashes that colossal bolt, wiping out the monsters still on the field. She's gravely injured and out of energy. The Chimera realizes she has nothing left to do with the last of her strength. She confirms that the escape route is clear and that her mission has been fulfilled. As her body starts to fade away, her final thought is a silent, fragmented scream begging to go back. But a cold message from the system warns that there's no going back, not this time. That day, the results of Hunter Chimera number 17's mission were officially filed away, like a goodbye. In a battlefield littered with monster corpses, the report states that no hunters were lost, and the final tally shows that the Chimera, alone and abandoned, had taken down 1,823 monsters. The moment she dies, something insane and unexpected begins to unfold. As her physical form dissolves, forgotten memories of a previously ignored past resurface. He remembers a devastating truth. He was once a complete human being before being kidnapped at 9 years old. A lifetime flashes before him, but his damaged brain struggles to process the reality of the situation. Still, his consciousness calmly observes the tragic tale of a forgotten life. The memory starts 79 years ago in an orphanage in District 13, where a man holds a tiny baby. 9 years later, the same boy is called to attention by the orphanage director for fighting. The altercation heats up and a window shatters in the midst of the brawl. Tired of dealing with him, the orphanage abandons him, leaving the kid alone in the snow with no direction. The boy wanders the freezing streets until he collapses, falling into the snow. A black van stops to offer help, and the occupants notice the troubled child. He ends up being taken to a lab all tied up, and his life begins to succumb to tests. Scientists hover around him, calling him number 17, as if he were just a lab specimen. One researcher orders the procedure to be recorded before the injections of powerful cells. The injection begins, and each of the scientists focuses on the reaction of the rookie. To everyone's surprise, the boy shows no side effects, like, wow, that's awesome. A special ability emerges, but he still seems way off normal. A scientist takes a look and says to keep adding that substance until something happens. 5 years later, they're still trying to untangle the knot of their dark experiment. Now a teenager, the kid finds himself on a battlefield facing a monster. He stands his ground and unleashes the energy shield to block the creature's attack, but more monsters are closing in. So, he readies himself to unleash a deadly defensive blast. His attack hits the monsters squarely, sending a destructive burst of blue energy spiraling out. He glances at his hand as the blue energy dissipates, taking out the last threat. A woman and her son thank the young man for saving their lives from those beasts. A soldier apologizes for putting such a heavy burden on a child, but he remains unbothered. 50 years pass, and our hero once again becomes a true hunter. He joins the battle alongside the others, not fully understanding the destruction or even where he is. One of the scientists appears, asking why he stopped and if his memory is hazy. The scientist laughs, saying the side effects have finally kicked in. 54 years ago, a scientist's notes detailed the results of everything that had been implanted over the years, and the patent became priceless. Shackled and mutated, he's officially the lab's most successful experiment. A memory from 20 years ago shows a hand offering raw meat, calling him number 17. In his monstrous form, he incites panic as he snatches the food, showcasing just how untamed he is. The audience recoils in disgust, and even a dad shields his kid's eyes from the grotesque scene. As memories fade, we return to 3 days ago, right at the moment of the final attack. As his body dissolves, his mind focuses on just one thing. He's done everything he needed to do. Flashes of his past life fade away, leaving the haunting image of the battleground where he met his end. But in the barren battlefield, a single bone begins to glow, the last remnant of the Chimera. That bone starts to radiate, gathering dust and sand, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. A new skeleton emerges from the ground, now infused with the power of 527 monstrous cells. Skin and muscle rapidly grow over the bones, reforming the body of Hunter number 17. The process culminates in a blinding flash, signaling that the rebirth is complete. When the light fades, a pair of human feet stands where he was reborn whole once more. He looks down at his hands, his mind spinning, trying to grasp the situation. Alone in the emptiness of the desert, he stares at his reflection and wonders if he's human again. This question echoes in his mind as he takes those shaky first steps into the future. He realizes he's not completely human, but those monstrous abilities are still there. Noticing that the pulse number has disappeared, he wonders if he's finally free from the lab. He thinks that his revival must be some kind of immortal monster thing, like a generic phoenix. His cells belong to a creature with insane regenerative abilities, capable of coming back from almost nothing, and this power lets him revive up to 3 times, as long as something vital isn't destroyed. He remembers hearing that human cells don't mix with immortals, but now he's feeling on top of the world. The little jerks who controlled him are gone, and the fog that clouded his mind has finally lifted. With number 17 behind him, he wonders if he'll finally get the chance to live like a human. He tries to recall the name he had before, remembering the words of the dude who made him in the orphanage. He called him Bye-Bye, hoping that would motivate him to help others. Now he laughs at that memory, finding it funny that a slum orphan would want to help someone, looking out at the desolate landscape. He's thinking about what to do next, considering revenge, but quickly dismisses that thought, realizing revenge needs a target, and right now, nothing is clear. So much time has passed that the desire for revenge has faded. Plus, he's come to terms with the fact that there's no way back to the human world. He decides to put all of that on hold, convinced that one day he'll encounter his enemies again, with a new purpose. For now, he focuses on surviving in this unknown journey. He stands in silence for a moment, watching the sunset over the mountains, contemplating his next move. After a while, he makes a decision. For now, he just wants to live a life that feels human. You get it. The first practical thing is that he needs some clothes, but he can't remember the last time he wore anything. He starts walking through the vast landscape, and after a while, he spots a green area near a stream and thinks about what he could use to make clothes. Our hero looks around at the old unknown and realizes that finding suitable materials for clothes is going to be quite a mission. Determined to explore, he cautiously peeks through the bushes for a better view of the area. As he scans the surroundings, something unexpected catches his attention and his expression shifts. He discovers the body of a large creature, resembling a bird, and wonders if it died in a territorial fight or was just another victim. After taking a closer look, David notices there aren't any serious injuries and deduces that the creature likely kicked the bucket from poisoning. Holy crap, this is a stroke of luck. All he really wanted was some leather. To help him out, he taps into one of his skills, making a sharp blade extend from his own arm. You know what I mean? He figures having a proper blade will make it easier when it comes time to skin the creature, like a machete, but homemade. He remembers the dissection techniques he was forced to learn in the lab and starts planning how he'll make the cuts. However, as soon as his blade touches the creature's skin, a dark, poisonous liquid oozes out, and he thinks, "Whoa, what the hell is this?" He immediately jumps back as a powerful wave of poisonous gas bursts from the corpse, like something out of a horror movie, confirming his suspicions. He catches the lingering smell and realizes he'll have to wash the skin really well because just in case it stinks, right? After successfully skinning the beast, he sets up a makeshift tarp and starts considering his next step in this saga. He takes the monster's hide to the river, washing the dark poison bubbling in the water like a purification ritual. But even after giving it a good rinse, he finds the hide is so tough it feels like armor. While grappling with the resilient material, a crazy idea pops into his head about how to soften it up, like a brainstorming session. He starts pounding the hide on the ground, using his strength, trying to tenderize it like a massage master. He wonders if this is the right way to work the leather, but decides it must be, since he's the main character here. His unorthodox method proves effective. He holds the leather, now soft and flexible. With the material finally ready, he starts measuring it against his body to make some fitting clothes. As he works on his new outfit, out of nowhere, the dead creature's head suddenly catches fire. Damn, what a bizarre sight. He is startled by the flickering flames and accidentally rips the skin while trying to figure out what's going on. Deciding to just ignore it for now, he rushes to finish his work, using all his strength to shake the leather. He whips up a simple tunic out of the leather, using a vine as an improvised belt to keep it in place. Admiring his new attire, he feels satisfied because it fits him perfectly. But then he notices a persistent purple stain, realizing that the poison hasn't been completely cleared away. What the hell? As he decides to wear it anyway, he's shocked to see the flaming bird's head start to twitch. Suddenly, the creature's head sways back and forth, making him wonder if somehow it can understand what he's saying. He realizes that even though it's dead, there's some level of life in it, so it must be an immortal type of creature. The dude reflects that if his past self would have killed without a second thought, now he feels different, like a new version of himself. He smiles at the flaming head, telling the creature that they're both lucky to be in their second lives. With one last farewell, he turns away, leaving the creature behind and continuing his journey without looking back. Later, he stumbles upon a stunning cave and steps inside, feeling the cool, rocky ground under his bare feet. Now that the clothing situation is sorted, the young man decides that his next priority is to build a house, because why not? He examines the rough stone walls, ready to start carving out a new home for himself in the cave, but his quest is interrupted when a giant, monstrous centipede crawls out of the darkness and lets out a high-pitched screech, like a real screamer. The huge creature charges at him with its sharp pincers aimed right at our hero, unfazed. The young man simply stares at the beast and wonders if the cave is too dark for his plans. With a quick, fluid move, he takes out the monster. His bodies dissolve into a green liquid, and bizarrely, he calmly turns his back on the mess and tosses the notebook aside as a potential home. Moving on, his journey takes him to a completely different place, where snow falls endlessly from the sky and the vibe shifts entirely. This freezing region is home to huge monsters, like yetis, but they're no match for him. The guy's tough. After taking them down, he decides to keep going, realizing that finding a stable food source here would be nearly impossible. Later, he explores a dense forest filled with strange mushroom-like creatures, but the place reeks, so he bails. A slimy cave seems like a dead end too, since he doesn't want to deal with those uncomfortable conditions. Finally, he reaches the edge of a high cliff, and the spectacular view in front of him is like a wake-up call. He's stunned to spot a beautiful waterfall and admits he never pictured the demon realm with such a scenic backdrop. Curious about the situation, he decides to take a closer look and leaps off the cliff. He lands softly near the water's edge, ready to explore the stunning area he just stumbled upon. He gazes into the water, satisfied to see it's clear and filled with fish, which means dinner is sorted. The fish are massive, but he finds it all delicious, imagining grilling them like he's at a campsite with a natural fish farm nearby. He starts thinking this could make for a perfect spot to build a home. The presence of incredible yellow flowers only seals the deal that this location is ideal. He takes a deep breath, savoring the fresh air and the greenery around him, feeling like he's in a dream. Standing still in the peaceful forest, he takes in the scenery and declares that this place is amazing. With a contented smile, he looks up and officially decides that this spot is Chaim's new home. As if it's a sign, a single green leaf drifts down, nature's way of approving his choice. But in another corner of the vast demon realm, a strange energy starts to build up over a barren plain. A dark, spiraling portal opens in the sky, its edges surrounded by blue energy bursting from the vortex. Suddenly, a dark object is ejected, shooting down towards the ground like a bullet. A small, round robot crashes to Earth, kicking up a cloud of dust and smoke, just like in the movies. Its bright red eyes activate as it scans its new surroundings, thinking, "Damn, is this the demon realm?" But the spot where it landed is far from a desolate desert. It's filled with flowers and life, totally different from what it expected. It takes a deep breath of the fresh air, enjoying the lush green trees surrounding it like an oasis. It's ready to start building its new home. The first step is to prepare a suitable spot, so it uses its powers to get things going. It sends out a thin strand of golden energy, zipping through the air and slicing through the trunks of large trees like a katana. It surveys the freshly cleared area, satisfied that there's going to be enough room for a kick-ass house. Using its telekinetic abilities, it separates the fallen wood, gathering the best logs. Even though it has plenty of trees, it realizes the ground is too uneven to lay a foundation, which totally sucks. To fix that, it lifts a massive log and starts banging it against the ground repeatedly. Soon, the foundation becomes flat, creating a space that will get plenty of sunlight and energy. You know what I mean? For the first time in its life, it moves solely out of desire, guided by its heart and good vibes. It starts building, easily hoisting a giant log to set the first corner pillar. With the pillars in place, it moves on to the next step, laying down the floorboards. Taking it easy, it realizes it needs some sort of adhesive for the walls, and since it doesn't have nails, it thinks about using snail slime. It applies the green goo between the logs, knowing it'll harden like rock. And it's going to be a waterproof sealant. As he puts on the finishing touches, he tests golden power lines around the area to create a protective barrier because safety is never too much. He smiles, confident that his new defenses will keep most monsters from getting anywhere near his home. His cozy room is now complete, reinforced with monster slime and wrapped in silk from a silkworm. He wants to be satisfied with the work, but he can't shake the feeling that something important is still missing. He tries to remember what a normal human home was like, recalling a lecture he watched in the lab from some educational videos. He saw how people always grew plants in their backyards. He knows he can't have a regular dog there, so he thinks about what else he could add to the yard. Out of nowhere, a brilliant idea strikes him as he remembers a specific magical creature. He looks at the snowy mountains and thinks about planting a mandrake, a special monstrous plant. His journey takes him to a cold region where the wind blows hard and the snow keeps falling. He knows that the mandrake's habitat is the densest and most human part of those mountains. The heavy snow brings back a painful memory, the day he was kidnapped and taken to the lab. He remembers how cold it was back then. It even felt like a relief compared to being kidnapped. Looking back, he realizes that some good things came from becoming a chimera, like not feeling the cold. Our hero senses the high concentration of mana in the area and quickly figures he must be close to his destination. After a well-deserved hike, he spots a field of small green sprouts. Relieved that the trip wasn't in vain, he remembers that mandrakes are delicate creatures, like super vulnerable to stress and changes in their environment. So, he decides it's better to relocate the younger and more adaptable sprouts to his new home. As he carefully pulls one from the ground, he prepares himself for its infamous and deadly scream, But to his surprise, the little monster just lets out a low, sleepy sound instead of a scream. He takes another one, and it makes the same soft, sleepy noise, leaving him confused. Then he grabs a third one, which also reacts with a gentle noise. Increasing the surprise even more, he holds the small creatures in his hands, wondering if they're somehow talking in their sleep. Usually, the mandrake's scream is triggered by stress, especially when cultivated by humans. He didn't expect to hear any noise in the demon realm, but he's taken aback to find out that they're not feeling stressed at all. Suddenly, it hits him that they might be recognizing him as one of their own, with mandrake cells in his body. He carefully tucks the little things into his belt, relieved that they don't seem interested in causing trouble. Meanwhile, he daydreams about brewing tea with the roots and eating their fruits when they grow. But he remembers that the fruits turn poisonous if harvested forcefully, so he knows he has to be gentle to persuade them. Out of nowhere, he senses others nearby and realizes there are hunters on the snowy mountain. A mischievous grin creeps across his face as he considers the chance to snag a few of their portal stones quickly. Meanwhile, two hunters are fuming, feeling like total idiots for being left behind as bait by their own allies. They're surrounded by a pack of monstrous rabbits, extremely fierce and ready to fight. These creatures are cruel, with sharp teeth and weird tentacles writhing inside their mouths. It's a grotesque sight. One of the men panics and creates a hexagonal ice barrier to block the explosive attack from the beasts. He's struggling to keep the fear off his face, only realizing that the defense won't last when cracks start spreading across the ice. He warns his friend that the barrier is about to break. When it shatters, he regrets volunteering for the mission to find the legendary Chimera. The shield completely collapses and he screams for help as the monstrous rabbits charge at him. But then, just as they're about to strike, a massive blast of energy sends all the monsters flying. The two hunters are like, "What the fuck?" at the sudden intervention. Surrounded by the defeated creatures, through the whirling snow, a solitary figure materializes. One of the hunters, extremely nervous, asks if it's a person. The stranger stands there in front of the rescued hunters, calm and unreadable. He calmly walks while one of the remaining creatures, a snow rabbit, growls threateningly. Then, the young man unleashes a wave of insane pressure. His powerful aura terrifies the whole pack of monsters. With a single click, he sends the rabbits flying, causing the others to scatter in fear. Like in a movie, the two hunters watch, incredulous and shocked that B-class monsters would run away like that. And with the immediate threat gone, one of the survivors thanks the stranger for saving them, like, really grateful. He introduces himself as Quinto, and then his companion asks for the savior's name, who replies Theo. The young man feels a bit confused. He's never heard that name before and wonders about Doan's strange outfit. His partner asks why Doan is there, and Theo explains that he's probably a D-class hunter who came for the money. He mentions a request to catch a live Chimera, and then Doan's attention shifts to the area. He clarifies that a lab-type test subject escaped from some lab and jumped through that portal. Doan thinks about grabbing the portal stone, but the hunters say their former team members took everything. The injured guy clutches his arm, explaining that the betrayal was planned from the start. He regrets it, remembering that the B-class hunter offered them a chance to join the team. The hunters desperately plead for help, warning about the deadly effects of mana contamination. The time a hunter can last and live in the demon realm depends on their level, you know. Without purification, mana contamination is fatal, serious stuff. One of the guys begs for his pregnant wife, but Doan has already found out about those who fled without warning. He jumps high and leaves the two hunters stunned, looking on in shock. They scream after him in panic, like desperately asking where he's going as he flies away. Meanwhile, a small white robot with yellow eyes is alone in the snowy trees. The robot, a runaway Chimera, looks cautiously over a cliff, realizing that danger is right below. At that moment, the hunters who betrayed the team move in. As it tries to capture the machine, the robot's sensors immediately detect a group approaching, recognizing them as dangerous beings. Its eyes turn red, and it activates combat mode, gearing up to take down the criminals. With a single command to eliminate the creature, it unleashes all its power on the hunters who ambushed it. Doan arrives at the battlefield, wondering if it's too late to intervene. He finds bloodstains and abandoned gear scattered in the snow, realizing the hunters have all fled. Then he notices some strange footprints, a mix of children's and animal tracks intertwined with blood from the bags. Looking over the evidence, he wonders if the creature fought back while shifting form. It's quite intriguing. He recalls the story of the mechanical creature that escaped and realizes it's much more than just a machine made of liquid metal, allowing it to change shape easily, but the rare material limits its size. Doan is impressed, noting that this tiny mechanical being managed to subdue 5 B-ranked hunters. Meanwhile, back with the lost hunters, Teo is trying to wake up his dying friend. He thinks his buddy is already 2 feet in the grave, feeling completely overwhelmed by demonic energy. Teo is desperately trying to keep him conscious, reminding him that his son is due next month. Just when the dying hunter is losing hope, a solitary figure walks over them through the snow. It's Doan, looking up in shock, tears in his eyes as he sees the savior approaching. It's him now, carrying all the abandoned gear, surrounded by a radiant aura. He walks up to the kneeling hunter, dropping a pair of combat boots into the snow. Teo, pleading with the powerful stranger to save him from certain death, says, "Please." Doan remembers they don't have the portal stone, but the hunter knows all too well what that means. In a desperate appeal, he pulls out 2 checks for 10 million won each, begging to buy just 1 stone. Doan glances at the checks, weighing the offer, while the hunter explains that they'll die if they can't get back. Then he pulls out a portal stone and breaks it in half, creating 2 separate portals back to the human world. As the hunter bows in gratitude, Doan opens a portal, offering a way back. As Taerim keeps pushing his friend to get up, Doan glances at the checks he received. The stranger asks what the current value of a portal stone is, which the hunter said is now 1 million wons. Doan closes his hand around the cash, feeling like he got paid way too much. He smiles and tells the 2 hunters that he'll give them some change. Then, he places his hands over them, and a powerful wave of blue mana swirls around their bodies. The hunter is shocked, realizing that this guy is injecting mana, a method that's super risky even for high-rank hunters. If 2 different sources of mana collide, their mana cores can break, leading to death. But to everyone's surprise, the dark demonic energy is completely purified from their bodies. His friend is healed too, and they embrace, both in tears of disbelief, happy to be alive. Doan turns his back on them, and the hunters thank him, stunned by the control he had over the mana. With the 2 guys safe on their way, Doan heads back to the new house he built for himself. He returns to the cabin, glad there are no intruders and that he managed to snag a hefty amount unexpectedly. Then he checks the mandrakes in his belt and notices their leaves are wilting from the long journey. Gently, he plants the 3 shoots in the bed he prepared in front of his new home, but the little creatures stare up at him with dissatisfied faces, clearly unhappy with their new digs. He thinks that once the mandrakes grow, he could ask for some roots to make tea, but he remembers that the fruits turn poisonous if picked roughly, so he needs to coax them gently. Suddenly, he feels a familiar presence nearby and realizes he's not alone in the woods. He turns to see the mechanical creature the hunters were after, the one he let slip, hiding in the bushes. The little robot watches him silently, and he wonders what it wants. Deciding to leave that for later, he goes into the new cabin and stashes the cash he received. He sits down on the wooden floor and starts organizing the stuff he brought back. The bag is filled with useful supplies like camping gear, extra clothes, and 8 portal stones. He pulls out a pack of instant noodles, reminiscing about the snacks he used to eat as a kid in the orphanage, feeling an intense hunger after a long day. He decides he's going to cook the noodles for his first real meal. The recipe calls for a specific amount of water, so he goes out to check on the river. While collecting water, he notices bubbles starting to form on the surface, indicating that something's moving down below. Out of nowhere, this giant, monstrous fish jumps out of the river, startling our protagonist who's holding his pot. Dude, it's insane. Then he remembers that people usually throw in other ingredients for ramen to spice things up. Thinking the fish would be a killer addition, he goes for it and delivers a massive punch to the creature. Since the recipe also calls for eggs, he pulls out a weird egg he found, hoping it'll help him out. Without any scallions on hand, he decides to climb a tree and grab some random leaves, trying to give his ramen a cooler flavor. With his pot full of strange ingredients, he figures it's time to start cooking and heads back to camp. On his way back, a little mechanical creature watches him from a distance, hiding behind a tree like a stalker. Borish's stomach is filled with curiosity. I gotta see our hero cook. I mean, wow, that sounds delicious. He lights up the portable stove, but he's stuck because the ramen instructions don't say how much fish to put in. Deciding to be bold, he dumps everything into the pot at once, stirring on the wooden table he set up. Meanwhile, the 3 tiny mandrakes creep closer, drawn in by the tasty smell wafting around. But when the strong aroma hits them, they scrunch up their noses like, what the heck is that? Ramen shouldn't smell like this. The strange scent of the food seeps into the silent forest, reaching spots he never expected, and the irresistible aroma also gets to the hidden robot, which starts drooling, freaking out to taste it. Suddenly, the mechanical creature has an idea. It remembers something it saw in the lab and starts shape-shifting into a needy dog, hoping to gain the man's sympathy, a tactic it learned from humans. The disguised creature approaches, whining with that. Asking if the pup wants to eat together, the little guy is drooling all over, like, don't play around, hungry boy. He wasn't paying attention to the weird mix in the pan with fish, eggs, and greens, and decides to give it a try. He takes a bite while the dog is chomping down his share, looking happier than a kid. For a moment, as the dog stuff itself, he stares at it with a confused expression, not quite getting it. I like to remember. The taste takes him back in time, reminiscing about childhood when he eat ramen with other friends, remembering the rare happy times he had a hot bowl of noodles with a smile on his face. As he recalls those tough days, a shy smile spreads across his face when the childhood memory brings a warm feeling to his heart. After the meal, the delicious aroma of the ramen still lingers, overpowering all the other smells, but it's so strong that the mandragoras can't handle it, making disgusted faces. After waving goodbye to the food, he gives a heads up to the dog Chimera that it's free to wander off now since he needs to clean up, but it's a bit of a slip-up. Even though the dog just turns around and takes a few steps away, the guy points out that earlier, the pup had been limping on its left paw, holding it up to see if it's smart. With its mask off, the creature starts limping again, trying to keep up the act just to amuse our hero. After their feast, he heads over to the waterfall to wash the dishes and clean up his clothes. He tosses the clothes from the abandoned bag into the water, knowing leather just can't be a forever thing. He's beating the clothes with a stick, careful not to tear them, right? But on the first try, the stick breaks out of nowhere, shocking the robot that's been watching it all. The little dog-like Chimera observes from a distance while our hero struggles to wash his clothes but just ends up messing it all up. Uno's frustrated, realizing it's all good, since there's still one piece left to wash. He notices the strange mechanical creature still lurking around, changing shape in a flash. This time, the creature turns into a shiny rock with cute little eyes, making him even more confused. The creature watches silently while he eats, cleans the dishes, and even admires the nearby flowers. Looking at the fork-like flowers, the creature disguises itself as a tree to blend in. A little bee approaches, attracted by the flowers, landing on the disguised creature's body. The creature understands the panic, reverts to its original form, and bolts away from the bee as fast as it can. Its eyes blaze red with fear, showing all the disgust it has for bees, revealing a childlike fear. Our hero watches the scene unfold, realizing that the creature's clumsy reactions mean something. He figures out that the creature has a simple mind. It's a common side effect for newly formed chimeras with embedded knowledge. After a failed attempt to scare him off, the shy little robot peeks out from behind the flowers. After a lot of trial and error, he finally manages to clean one of the shirts, realizing that laundry is his thing. He holds up the clean shirt, relieved to have at least saved that piece. He hangs it up to dry and decides to take a stroll with the mandrakes he planted back in his hideout. The robot watches with bright little eyes fixed on the clean, white shirt. He sees our hero getting dressed and thinks he should also wear clothes to look like him. The robot quickly grabs the shirt from the clothesline and puts it on, grumbling that it's now his. He struts around in his new outfit, feeling all happy, thinking he looks great like a human. But the transformation doesn't stop there, as his metal body begins to change and grow. The robot's hand turns into a human hand, and his body takes on a new, more familiar shape. He completely transforms into the little brat, feeling all proud of his new human form. The man finds his mandrakes hidden under a rock, their leaves wilted and roots looking dry. He's confused. because he was sure he had pulled out all the weeds due to the jargill. Suddenly, some strange worm-like creatures pop out of the ground and he realizes he should have tilled the soil after getting rid of the pests. He decides to create a real-sized garden for his new plants. While he's working, a little girl shyly peeks out from behind a tree and exclaims a surprise "oh" upon seeing a child. He cautiously responds, wondering why she's talking to him. The little girl points to his cabin and asks if it's his house, to which he replies, "Yeah, it's pretty obvious." She then asks if he's a local, and the man, deciding to tease a bit, asks what tribe she belongs to. The girl nervously repeats the word, catching him off guard, and quickly makes up a story, saying she's from a tribe far across the waterfall. The man plays along, asking if she's from the coconut tribe, a name he just made up on the spot. The little girl quickly agrees, but he points out that her clothes are just like his. He asks what brought the coconut tribe all the way here, and his curiosity turns to concern when she admits she got kicked out. Then, she makes a surprising request, asking if she can stay with him, saying, "I have nowhere to go. Help me." He asks why she wants to live there and explains that it seems safe from bugs and stuff. She wiggles her little fingers and says that having a home makes her feel safer and more protected. He realizes that deep down, all she really wants is a quiet place to rest, so he decides to let her stay. He agrees, but with one condition. She has to help with the work, and the girl happily accepts right away. The first task he gives her is to help cultivate a new garden for mandrakes. She grabs the gardening tool, all excited, telling him to leave it to her because she's strong. The little girl unleashes an explosion of power, effortlessly clearing the whole field, and again says, "Look how powerful I am." He notices she has no intention of hiding her identity. Maybe she just doesn't know how a normal kid acts. After they finish the work, he asks her name, and the question seems to totally catch her off guard. She admits she doesn't have a name and decides to create a new one, inspired by the beautiful flowers she saw. Proudly, she declares her name is now Canary, holding her gardening tool like a true hero. The man mishears her, thinking she named herself after the flowers, but she quickly corrects him. With the garden complete, they quickly finish off the new area by surrounding it with a sturdy stone fence. The little mandrakes are ecstatic in their new home, dancing in the fresh soil they've just gotten. But as he watches the little creatures playing, he realizes the girl is alone, looking sad and excluded. Her eyes fill with tears as she looks down at the ground, overwhelmed by a wave of loneliness. He realizes that in the lab, she would never get the chance to make friends or play with other kids. The sadness in the little girl's expression deepens, and a tear rolls down her cheek as she feels isolated. At that moment, something unexpected happens, catching both of their attention. In the forest, a sudden, sharp scream echoes, causing the little girl to duck down in fear. She says she saw a monster that looked like a little mouse being attacked by several others. As they rush over, she explains that the creature is hurt and wounded, being bitten and bullied by its attackers. She clutches her head in distress, but the boy asks if she wants to help the monster. He gently offers to assist, framing it as a choice so she doesn't feel so small and hidden. Encouraged by him, the little girl leaps up and flies towards the endangered creature. The boy and the girl arrive just in time to witness a truly chilling scene, with giant monsters and cursed bugs tormenting a small, adorable creature. The little white monster screams in pain as the larger beasts keep attacking it mercilessly. Without a second thought, the girl gets furious and yells at the monsters to stop harassing the poor thing. She quickly kicks one of the bugs from a distance, acting as a brave defender, putting herself between the monsters and the injured little monster. With tears in her eyes, our heroine makes a firm decision, determined to save the defenseless creature, just like a true hero. This whole scene reminds her of when she dominated in the ranking battles at the lab, where she was always the best. She recalls other chimeras that lived in fear of being used in experiments, all with high failure rates. Those girls blamed her for their miserable fate, attacking her relentlessly, because they always did what they were told. But that memory is abruptly cut off when a powerful attack hits the ground, signaling the arrival of a new challenger. With her past trauma in her mind, she screams for the monsters to stop, unleashing a shockwave with sinister power. With her eyes filled with rage, the little girl declares that tormenting someone in a group is just plain wrong. She unleashes all her power, sending the monsters flying away and ending the fight in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Dudu is feeding his mandrakes and wondering if humans are good. But of course, the peace doesn't last long, as the girl comes back screaming his name in a frenzy. She runs up to him in a panic, tears streaming down her face, desperately asking what to do. Worrying, she holds the little hurt creature and explains that the monster is injured and won't come back to its senses. He tries to calm her down, but soon notices the strange, terrifying aura of the little guy. She asks if the creature is dying, and he decides to take a closer look to assess the situation. He gently touches the creature and channels his own mana like a monster doctor. As the energy flows into him, he starts to feel that creature's unique story and its magical properties. The magic of each monster is like their magical DNA, revealing everything about their history. He recognizes that being the same immortal creature he had encountered before, only much smaller now. As he treats the little one, he realizes it's the same one he had seen dead and chose to spare. He wonders why it shrank so much, deducing that its way of regenerating must be different from his. He explains that the creature is just malnourished, as its tiny size makes it hard to find food, and assures her that now that he's sent a bit of mana its way, the monster will recover on its own if left alone. But the girl, recalling her traumas from the lab, insists that if they leave it alone, the little guy will die. She asks if she can take care of it, promising to train and feed it well, like a real nervous mom. She holds the monster, showing how weak it is, as if saying, "Look, it's really frail." She asks if she can look after the little thing, promising to give it food and love, if it lets her. He warns her that it will grow quite a bit, but she's already determined and promises to give it all her attention. A bit of it comes from her determination. The boy agrees, and the little girl lights up with happiness. The small monster, finally awake, looks around confused, as if asking, "Where am I?" Its eyes meet Dudu's, and the girl instantly realizes it recognizes the boy. The creature starts to remember the guy who tore its skin when it was much bigger. The girl, initially confused, eventually gives the monster a tight, loving hug. She excitedly holds the now awake monster. Filled with joy, the little creature was making pigeon sounds, and the tiny debate was bubbling up in its hands, demanding to be let loose and screaming in a pretty hilarious scene. I freak out, realizing that I can understand perfectly what the monster is trying to say. The little girl, bursting with pride, announces that she has finished the treatment and picked a name for the creature. Since the little critter makes pigeon noises, she decides to call it Q. Dudu doesn't mind the name, but the monster isn't a fan and protests that it already has a name. But the girl doesn't care and splashes a bucket of water on it. Then she panics, yelling that the creature is puffing up like a pufferfish. After taking a drink, with her to-do list growing, Dogen decides it's time to build a cabinet to organize the mess. He uses his sharp blade to start carving a log, picking a size that's not too big. The blade slices through the wood like butter, but he quickly realizes something's off. Confused, he steps back, not understanding why the wood for the cabinet is so different from what he used for the table. The little creature, Shu, explains that he's using a soft wood, which has a completely different color. I'm surprised, realizing that the existence of wood varies, and honestly, I didn't know that. Siyu is about to explain which color of wood is the strongest when, suddenly, he stops, eyes wide in shock. I look around the forest, thinking about the red wood that Siyu mentioned. Suddenly interested, the little monster gets anxious, realizing that somehow I understood everything he said. He decides to use his telepathy to check if I'm really hearing him. When the connection is established, my thoughts about finding the red wood flood into the creature's mind. The little monster is shocked to find out that his telepathy has been blocked, something he thought was impossible. Realizing that I can understand him, the creature nervously asks if I can really hear his thoughts. He explains that he's not really listening. It's more like the words just fall into his head. He turns the question back, saying it's much stranger for the monster to understand what the human is saying. I deduce that the little creature must be one of the rare monsters, the smart ones who were born against all odds. He asks if they've met before, recognizing the familiar feeling from his sister. He admits they have, explaining that he really wanted to see him again after he saved his life. He wanted to help in return, as a way to repay him for removing the poison and saving the core. I agree to the offer and ask if I can help find the red wood. Now, Goku wakes up, ready to fulfill his promise to help the man who saved his life. The little monster puffs up his chest and nods, confident he can lead me to where the red trees grow. But just as they're about to leave, a burst of fire engulfs the girl Nari, setting her ablaze. The girl screams in terror, the flames triggering a traumatic memory of the painful experiments in the lab. The explosion knocks her to the ground, leaving her dazed and terrified from the sudden attack. She totally loses it, thinking the lab has come back to capture her again. Scared of the flames engulfing her, a man with a tracking device confirms that the mechanical creature is his target. Surrounded by fire, the long-haired hunter appears, ready to capture the runaway Chimera. He admits he doesn't feel good about attacking a kid, but his life is at stake too. He forms a fireball in his hand and hopes the girl understands his situation. With a powerful motion, he launches the flaming projectile straight at the terrified little girl. She screams in horror, bracing for impact, thinking it's the end of her freedom. But then, out of nowhere, Do shows up, furious because his moment of peace before eating got interrupted. With urgency in his voice and his eyes glowing with power, Do agrees. But now saving the child is the priority. He realizes the girl isn't mentally okay and has heavy trauma with fire. Determined to extinguish the flames first, Do agrees and calls the attacker a coward for intimidating her. The long-haired hunter gets furious, but Dao, the calmest person in the world, tells him to back off before it's too late. Thus, a tense standoff ensues, with Do standing between the attacker and the frightened girl. Furious at being interrupted, the hunter unleashes all his power, too impatient to be stopped. A torrent of flames shoots out, and he yells for Duan to get out of the way. Dawan, totally calm, raises his hand, creating a small blue light at his fingertip. He fires a concentrated beam of energy that slices through the flames like a knife through butter, hitting the target effortlessly. The explosion is deafening, leaving the hunter in shock, unable to believe what he just saw. He stares wide-eyed, mouth agape, as realization dawns on him about Duan's immense power. Garatina, puzzled, says, "I dunno," but the threat's neutralized now. In the blink of an eye, wiping away his tears, he feels relieved that his new uncle has put out the terrifying fire. He gives him simple advice, saying that whenever you get scared, just remember to face your fears. He grabs the unconscious hunter by the hair, effortlessly dragging him along the ground. As he lifts the guy up, he's surprised to find the hunter's long hair coming off, leaving the defeated man with a shiny bald head, while Duan ends up holding a super realistic wig. And that's how this chapter wraps up, filled with epic moments and a good dose of humor amid the chaos. So there it is, boss. If you liked it and want more chaos, demons, building, and confusion, don't forget to hit that notification bell. Thanks for sticking around. Now you can take a shower, and of course, if today's Saturday, right?